Hey, what's going on guys? It's your boy Sperato, and today I'm going to be showcasing the most based waifu control deck this game has to offer, and yes, I will die on that hill. And of course I'm talking about Dragonmaids. Dragonmaids are a really fun control deck. It's not just set 5 and pass. You actually use a lot of different monster effects. You have hand traps, and you still have your back row. It's a really cool, grindy deck that doesn't do a lot turn 1, but it snowballs out of control afterwards. But before we dive into this mess of cards, let me entice you to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps out the channel tremendously and helps encourage me to make more videos like this one. Anyways, let's talk about what this deck is actually trying to do. So your main goal is to set up a mixture of any of these 3 interruptions. You have Dragonmaid Tidying, which is nothing more than a bounce. You bounce something back to your opponent's hand, and you bounce a Dragonmaid back to your hand. Actually, it's any dragon, which is kind of crazy when you think about it. We also have Dragonmaid Sheou, the archetypal boss monster. You're going to fusion summon this bad boy with Dragonmaid Changeover. This is an Omni Negate and Destroy. It also brings back a Dragonmaid from your graveyard. Once it negates something, it'll go into your second boss monster, House Dragonmaid, which is a little bit mediocre, but at least it's not once per turn. Anytime you bounce a dragon monster back to your hand, you get to pop something on the field, which is pretty cool. And then the last piece of interruption we have is All Reliable himself. Never ran a dragon deck without this card, Hieratic, Seal of the Heavenly Spheres. Any 2 dragons whips this out, and then it just bounces something back to the hand and tributes itself for cost. When it's tributed, you get to special summon any dragon from your deck, and when you're playing Dragonmaids, that's a very useful effect to have. So how do we get this engine started? Well, we have 9 starters. We got 3 copies of Chamber Dragonmaid, who searches for spells and traps for the archetype. We also have Parlor Dragonmaid, which does almost the same thing, but instead of adding it to hand, it sends it to grave, which most Dragonmaid spells and traps do have in-grave effects. And then we have the Kitchen Dragonmaid, which is not as good as the other 2, but it's still a Dragonmaid name that searches something. It searches a Dragonmaid monster, you add it to your hand, and then you have to discard a Dragonmaid monster, usually the one that you just added. Now this might seem underwhelming, but it's totally fine when you have a million copies of Monster Reborn. We have Monster Reborn itself. We have the in-archetype Monster Reborn with Dragonmaid Hospitality, which also sends your big dragons from your deck to your graveyard, so there's a lot of value out of this. And we have the 2 World Legacy Guardragon. The only other small Dragonmaid we run is the Nurse Dragonmaid. I feel like this is a really good one-of in the deck because you special summon this off of seals, and when she is summoned, you get to special a Dragonmaid from your graveyard, which helps the deck do what it wants to do, and that is just snowball out of control after that turn 1 during your opponent's turn. Now, all of these Dragonmaids share the same effect where they can tag out into a big Dragonmaid from your hand or your graveyard. However, it is level dependent, with the exception of Chamber Dragonmaid. She can go into any dragon, even your boss monster from the extra deck if it finds its way into the grave. So your Parlor and your Kitchen can tag out into the level 8 Dragonmaids, Lorpar and Tinkhec, while the Nurse Dragonmaid is restricted to only being able to summon Ernus. After they have tagged out in the battle phase, they will tag back in if you want them to, which sets us up to use our big Dragonmaid effects in the hand, although they're kind of bad to be honest. Ernus specials a Dragonmaid from your hand. Lorpar is a slow effect veiler, only being spell speed 1 and still only lasting till the end of the turn. Yikes. And Tinkhec probably being my favorite one, just a 2000 damage boost. You could do this during the damage step and surprise your opponent. Now the way you're going to get into these big dragons is either by sending them off of Dragonmaid Hospitality. For example, if you brought back your Kitchen Dragonmaid, you would send the corresponding type from deck to grave, which is Tinkhec. Or you could just send them to the graveyard with Parlor Dragonmaid. These are important to get out, not just because of their effects or that they're beaters. They're important to get out because you're going to fuse them with Dragonmaid Changeover, one of the most ridiculous fusion spells I've ever read. It actually does nothing special, it's just polymerization for Dragonmaids, but it does have the neat effect in the graveyard to bounce your Dragonmaids from your field back to your hand to add this back to your hand, so you can constantly use it every turn as long as it's still in the graveyard. For the 19 people who are going to comment, why aren't you playing 2? DD Crow exists. Nobody plays DD Crow in Master Duel, and if there's a Hawk Arrow, I am not sending this to the graveyard, obviously. Besides, the deck has a million more interruptions than just the Sheou. Like, Sheou isn't the only thing this deck does, but Sheou is still really freaking good, so you obviously want to play the 1 copy that you can search off Lorpar or Chamber, and you just gotta fuse it with a big Dragonmaid. To be honest, the rest of the deck is just staples and hand traps because the deck has a hard time going second and its boards going first aren't that great, so it just makes sense to fill the deck to the brim with hand traps. My personal ones of choice are the 3 Maxx, 3 Effect Veiler, 3 Imperm, 1 Nibiru, and 3 Ash Blossom. It's just the most solid generic round of hand traps for a best of one format. Oh, and one other card in the main deck, we have the Dragonmaid Downtime, which is really good for the back row matchups. Now, I originally didn't include this, but when I thought about it, in a best of one setting, there are a lot of like Unga Bunga Floodgate decks, and this just bounces back row, and it's a continuous, so you can keep on doing it over and over again. And if you aren't using the back row bounce, you can at least use its other effect to search for Dragonmaid cards, which is pretty nice. So on to the extra deck, we have the House and the Sheou, which I already talked about, but the reason for the 3-2 ratio is because Sheou is going to bounce itself back to the extra anyways, and you can't resolve its negate effect unless you have a house in the extra deck. And it's not like house returns itself back to the extra deck like Sheou does, so having 3 houses means that you can always have 3 negates with your Sheou. I went with 1 Pisty, 1 Striker Dragon to get those small Dragonmaids in the graveyard, so that Chamber Dragonmaid or Parlor Dragonmaid is a 1-card Hieratic Seals. 3 Hieratic Seals because it's the best Dragon Link card in the game. And then I just went with some generic stuff like all the Nightmares, the Dharc Charmer, and the Accesscode so I can link climb and kill my opponent. And that is pretty much the list, so let's show this deck in action. In this duel, I win a coin flip so I can go first, and Yu-Gi-Oh! That's code for I won. I'm going to normal summon Kitchen Dragonmaid. She gets Ash Blossom, that's totally fine. I wanted to lead off with her on purpose because I have the Hospitality plus the Parlor in the back, so I'm going to use that right now. Special Parlor, send Lorpar from deck to grave. Parlor is going to send Tidying from deck to grave, and then I end on a Hieratic Seal. I also have Maxx and Effect Veiler in my hand, which is kind of nutty. It's why I love playing a million hand traps in this deck. I do get Lightning Stormed, which is unfortunate, but even more unfortunate for him, he's going to go for Galaxy Soldier, so I get a free Maxx, sure, why not? I get a free draw from this. And I am going to Effect Veiler the Galaxy Soldier. I know the logic is like, oh, wait till you draw Nibiru and you already had Veiler, but there's only 1 Nibiru. This deck doesn't summon that much, and it can OTK you really fast and make a preemptive negate, so I didn't want to wait too long. So I'm just going to go ahead and Veiler the Galaxy Soldier. Plus I figured he doesn't have another Galaxy Soldier in hand, so the Cyber Dragon can't really summon itself out anyways. I'm not really afraid of that. He does Maxx me during the end phase in response to my Dragonmaid Tidying, which is kind of weird, but I'll take it. So he's gonna get 1 draw. That's totally fine with me. So during my turn, I'm able to, you know, just kind of pop off. I do send the the Dragonmaid Changeover during the end phase as well. Sorry, I had it fast forwarded. I'm going to normal summon the Nurse Dragonmaid during my turn, bringing back the Kitchen Dragonmaid, and then I'll search for the Chamber because I know I can discard it and bring it back with the World Legacy Guardragon later. I'm going to lead off with Knightmare Phoenix before committing to that play because I want to make sure it's safe, and then I'm going to use the World Legacy Guardragon to bring back the Chamber. Chamber is going to search for a Tidying, so I can make a pretty nasty board after breaking this one, which even though, you know, there's not really a board to break. I tag out into the Lorpar, and then main phase 2, I use the... And this was the funniest thing, and you can tell that I decayed in rank because this guy just like impermed this for no reason. When I activated Changeover, he could have at least like baited my Sheou that I was going to make, but you know, gold is gold. I'm going to bring back the Changeover, bring back the Lorpar, and then I'm going to activate Changeover, fusing those 2 monsters into a Sheou, and then set the Tidying. I am all set for the next turn. And then during the standby phase, my Sheou is going to special summon the Nurse Dragonmaid, which is going to special summon the Chamber Dragonmaid. Chamber Dragonmaid is going to search for Hospitality for the follow-up. I get hit with a freaking Kaiju, and then he's going to special Sidra and then fuse them together, which I'm totally fine with because I could just go back into Sheou, and he's just going to scoop to that. Okay, this was hardly a Dragonmaid duel. I just wanted to show you why I play a million hand traps, because a million hand traps is going to win you games going second, even though your deck sucks at going second. So they're going to normal summon this Harpy monster, Harpy Perfumer. I'm going to hit it with an Effect Veiler. He chains Swallow's Nest. What a Duel Links move right there. And this is going to let him dodge the Effect Veiler, but it allows me to chain Maxx, which gets me a free draw from the special summon. They're going to special summon the other... why are they all called Harpy ladies? I mean, whatever. This is a Harpy Channeler. They're going to go into Galaxy Tomahawk. Yo, shoutouts to the best Xyz monster in the game. And oh boy, I'm just going to draw so much with this Maxx here. They're going to go for the Infinite Negates route and go for the Samorg, go for the Union Carrier. Oh, hey Nibiru, how's it going, bro? I'm just gonna wait for them to commit some more, and then when they're about to end their turn, I'm just gonna hit them with the fattest Nibiru. And guess what? If they were playing Armed Dragons, they could have played through that. Their fault for picking the worst deck. This duel was against everyone's favorite deck, Tenyi Sword Soul. I'm gonna normal summon the Chamber Dragonmaid. I'm gonna have to call by that Ash Blossom they try to hit me with. Now Chamber's gonna resolve and get me Changeover. I go for Changeover because I have the Tinkhec in hand. If you see a big dragon in hand, just go for Changeover every time. Sheou is much better than Hieratic Seals. We're gonna summon the Sheou, set Tidying. Honestly, one of the best boards I could have asked for. During the standby phase, Sheou is gonna special the Chamber Dragonmaid, search me a Hospitality. I like to go for Hospitality most of the time because it's just a good follow-up. He's going to special summon one of his Tenyis. He's going to go into the Link Monster, which I'm going to bounce because the Link Monster, or I'm sorry, the Tenyis can only do things if there are non-effect monsters on the field, so I wanted to get rid of that. He follows up with another Tenyi. I know I can't really play through that, so I'm just going to Omni-negate it. And then he's going to go for a Sword Soul Emergence, getting the Moye, and I'm like, oh my god, if you have the other one in your hand, I'm going to be so mad. And guess what? He does have the other one, so I'm going to Valor the Moye just for it to not really matter. At this point, I'm just praying, I'm like, I hope you have a hand trap as your other card in your hand. But no, this guy has literally everything. So he's going to special summon, I don't even know what this guy's called, I don't know. You know who it is. He's going to summon that dude, and then he's going to get his Tenyi back. He's going to make a token, and he's going to go into the Sword Soul Grandmaster, and then he's going to do some Chain Link blocking. He's going to search for Blackout. So now I have to play through a Monster Negates and a Blackout. I can totally do this. I draw the Maxx. I would have loved to see you a turn or two ago. I'm going to use the Dragonmaid Hospitality, bring back Tinkhec. I go for Tinkhec because it's going to send the Kitchen Dragonmaid from deck to grave because it's the corresponding attribute, and I want to normal summon the Chamber Dragonmaid later. I'm basically just trying to bait out all the interruptions before I commit to Chamber, but it gets even better because he wastes the Monster Negate when he could have just ended this with a Blackout and then saved it for the Chamber Dragonmaid. So this is exactly what I hoped for. I bring back the Tinkhec with the Dragonmaid Changeover. I don't know why he let all of that resolve. I feel like that was a severe misplay on his end. But regardless, I was going to get a Chamber plus a Tidying for the next turn and shuffle something, or I'm sorry, bounce something back into his hand. Regardless, we take the win, and you know what? A W's a W. And that's Dragonmaids and Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. What do I realistically think about this deck? Well, I think it's like the most okay deck out there. Like, it is the most fair thing on the planet. It doesn't do anything crazy or broken. It just has a good grind game. It's very consistent. It's pretty durable when it comes to hand traps and interruptions, but it doesn't end on anything crazy. It's like maybe one negate, maybe a bounce. It doesn't really do much turn one, and that can lose you the duel on its own. That being said, I still think the deck has enough to compete, and I mean, if a deck can fit this many hand traps, like you're gonna be fine, to be honest. That's just how Yu-Gi-Oh! Is, unfortunately. There are some upsides though. They've got some cute anime artwork. They're really fun to play, and they're in a structure deck. Well, that's all I have for you today. Again, make sure you like and subscribe. Helps the channel out a ton. I'll see you later. Peace.